Hi, my name is Gary Humble, and I'd like to start a conversation about the Constitution. It's been a crazy year so far in 2020, and we've heard a lot about how we're operating outside of our Constitution by executive orders from not just in Tennessee either, but by executive orders from governors, from mayors, from county mayors, city leaders, health boards. But there's a lot of discrepancy as to understanding, well, what does it mean when we say these orders are unconstitutional? Also, are we talking about, is it unconstitutional according to the U.S. Constitution, or is it unconstitutional according to our state constitution? Well, particularly here in Tennessee, we actually have quite an incredible document. There's a little history about our Tennessee Constitution. It was originally drafted in 1796 and then sort of reworked again in 1834, and then post-Civil War was done for the final time in 1870. And that's actually the Constitution that we operate on now, is our Constitution from 1870 here in our state. And also, just some interesting little pieces of information. From 1870 to 1953, that Constitution went completely unamended. In fact, that made the Tennessee Constitution the longest standing unamended Constitution in the United States of America. And I think there's a reason for that. In fact, back when the Constitution was first drafted in 1796, Thomas Jefferson mentioned that the Constitution of the state of Tennessee was the least imperfect and the most Republican of all the state constitutions at the time. It truly is an incredible document. Our U.S. Constitution does a great job of providing parameters and limitations to our federal government, as well as outlining some rights, the inalienable rights that we have as United States citizens. But our Tennessee Constitution goes even further, which is what makes it a great document for our state. I can't speak for every state in this time of emergency powers and, COVID-19, and whether or not what their leaders are doing and as far as what their leaders are doing and to whether or not it's unconstitutional. But we can certainly, within our own state, take a look at our Constitution and see whether or not we quite measure up to the expectations of that document. Some other key things you need to understand about, well, what is a Constitution? I like to think of the Constitution as the people's document. It's our document. It's a document written in plain English that we should all be able to understand. It doesn't require a legal expert or someone who's been to Harvard to understand the rights that the Constitution is affording us and also the boundaries it's putting on our government. In the Tennessee Constitution, it actually does a fantastic job of what state constitutions are supposed to do, which is to further secure the rights of its citizens. So whereas the United States Constitution might afford us certain rights and benefits as American citizens, our state constitutions work to further secure those rights, and maybe even at times further place limitations inside of our own state government, which I think our Constitution does very well. Something I'd like to point out is in Article 1, Section 2 of our Constitution. It says this: that government being instituted for the common benefit, the doctrine of non-resistance against arbitrary power and oppression is absurd, slavish, and destructive of the good and happiness of mankind. That's an incredible statement. Our Constitution at the very beginning literally gives us a charge, almost a duty as citizens of our state, to resist what anyone can consider arbitrary power. And not only that, it says to not resist arbitrary power is slavish and absurd and actually destructive to the good and happiness of mankind. Those are powerful words. There's no question, in my mind at least, and probably for many of you, that right now in 2020, we're operating under absolute arbitrary power. Honestly, we're making this up as we go. And I don't know that I can blame everyone for that, because truly, we live in unprecedented times. And I don't know that in the state of Tennessee, at least, since the year 2000, since our emergency powers statute was enacted, that we've ever really had to operate under this statute. So to many, at least those governing right now, it's kind of new. But guess what's not new? The Tennessee Constitution. And in some following videos, I hope you'll join me in further understanding why our emergency powers statute that was passed in the year 2000 truly is very unconstitutional, especially in terms of the powers that it gives the governor of our state. I want to talk about how mask mandates in particular are unconstitutional. And we want to talk about how business closures and the designation of essential and non-essential is also unconstitutional. I hope you'll join me in understanding these concepts a little bit further, because listen, it's very, very important that we return back to a representative form of government. Every bit of ground we give up as we the people is ground lost. But it's time right now today to reclaim that ground, because it's ours. The government is ours. The government that we have claims its legitimacy, as our founders understood, by the consent of the governed. And our Tennessee state constitution is the way by which we consent to that government, and it should be followed. It's never amended unless we say so. And until then, our elected officials should restrict their power only to that which we give them in the Tennessee Constitution.